Welcome, everybody. I'm Gordon Firemark. I'm a media, entertainment, and intellectual property lawyer, and for over 33 years, I've been helping creators and entrepreneurs to protect what they've built. In this short, tight presentation, I promise it's going to be nice and quick, I'm going to give you a clear roadmap that will help you safeguard your brand the smart, affordable way. If that sounds good to you, give me a let's go in the chat. I see a couple of people already giving me indications. That's wonderful. All right. So give me a let's go and we'll jump right in. All right. Take a moment also to let me know in the chat where you're from, what your business is, and what would make you feel like today has been a huge win for you. I'll just give you a moment to jump in while I do the same, and it really does help to create some connection here in the chat room. All right. So this session is for creators who want to build something real and to protect it like the valuable business that it is. If you're not planning to grow or you don't mind losing whatever it is you build, well, then you can probably sit this one out. But I know that you care about your long-term success. So let's just get going here. My goal is to give you clarity so that you know how to move forward without confusion or fear or procrastination. Sounds good? All right. Here's a little bit about me. I am a practicing entertainment, media, and business lawyer for over 33 years, and a very large part of that practice is intellectual property, patents, copyrights, trademarks. Now, my purpose, my mission, is to help creatives and creator-driven businesses protect themselves and their property so they can feel confident and take the big, bold steps that they need to grow and prosper in their businesses. And I've seen the legal nightmares, but I've also seen the wins, and I want to help you be on that winning side. So, what's really at stake when you delay trademark protection? Well, here's the truth. Trademark rights start from first use of the mark, the brand, in commerce. It's not about first registration, but the trouble is, if somebody beats you to the registration at the USPTO, that's the United States Patent and Trademark Office, that's when things can get ugly. You might win eventually, but you'll wind up paying thousands of dollars in legal fees and spending months or years in opposition or cancellation proceedings over that improperly registered mark because you were first. Meanwhile, your business, you got there first, but your business is frozen. Your growth may be stalled and you're distracted from the things that matter the most, right? Running your business. Now, a trademark is a distinctive word, phrase, symbol, or design that identifies and distinguishes your goods or services from others in the marketplace. It has to be distinctive. That is not merely descriptive or generic for the products and services that you sell. This is what sets those things of yours apart from others out in the marketplace. Now, having a trademark protects your brand identity. It prevents confusion in the marketplace. It gives you exclusive nationwide rights when you've registered. Now, if you haven't registered a trademark, you do have some rights in your local region or territory, but the nationwide rights are what's important here because let's face it, nowadays we're making intellectual property. That's a lot of the stuff we're talking about. I work with podcasters, YouTubers, influencers, filmmakers, television creators, and folks like that. And having that registration nationwide gives you the freedom to market and sell your services all over the country. If somebody else beats you to it, yes, you might be able to stay in your local territory, but you wouldn't be able to go into those other marketplaces, other regions, and that could be punishing to your business. And finally, having a trademark registration does add real value to your business. It becomes an asset in your business. So this is about establishing and securing your identity in your marketplace, your reputation, your audience's trust, and you don't want to let somebody else hijack it. That means when you register a trademark, you will have the sole and exclusive rights to use your brand in connection with your kinds of goods or services throughout the territory, in this case, the United States. And if you go bigger, if you have business in other countries, you can register in other countries as well. So the other thing is that you'll have, when you have a registered trademark, is the ability to more easily put a stop to infringement. Often, all you have to do is cite the trademark to the infringer and ask them to stop. But also, if you have to, you can sue, and you've got you make a federal case of it, right? So by suing, you can put a stop to it as well if that becomes necessary. And you'll have the confidence and the security to invest in and grow and scale the brand. So it becomes that valuable asset that you can license to others. You could sell it if you want to. You hold it in the business as part of its overall value in case you decide to sell the whole business someday. All of this is ways of creating an asset library. So trademark doesn't just protect company name. It actually usually doesn't protect company name unless that company name is also the brand name for the goods or services. But you can protect your YouTube channel name or your podcast title, the names of your courses or memberships or frameworks inside those things, or coaching programs or episode segments of shows, logos, taglines, any methodologies that you've given a name to. Essentially, these become your brand identity. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't also share some important information about what trademarks can't do. That way, you'll have realistic expectations and a smart strategy. Trademarks do not protect your content. That's the copyright law. Copyright protects original works of authorship against copying, distribution, public display, public performance, and the making of derivative works. Only the author, the owner of the copyright, has the exclusive right to do those, and they have that right for their life plus 70 years. So it's a good long time. Trademark right is about protecting the brand, the title, the name, right? Now, trademarks also don't stop all uses of similar words in all contexts. Trademarks are registered and protected in classes of goods or services because, after all, there's really not that much likelihood of confusion when you're operating in completely different business markets from someone else. For example, Big Red, great brand for chewing gum, but nobody is also going to think that Wrigley's is also responsible for, say, a style of basketball shoe called Big Red, right? So trademark ownership doesn't protect against that and also won't automatically make you invincible. But it sure won't protect you much at all unless you've done a registration. That's what I'm here to promote today. Do a registration sooner rather than later. All right, let's talk about sunburn. Ever gone out in the sun thinking, oh, I'll be fine, and then you come home lobster red, and it really hurts, right? It's painful. Well, now imagine doing that every day for years. Then what happens? Skin damage or maybe even cancer. So running your business without legal protection is a little like going out without sunscreen. It might feel fine today, but it's just a matter of time. Don't skip this. Trademark protection is like legal sunscreen for your brand. So, why do so many creators wait too long to register their brands? Well, obviously, sometimes they just think, oh, it's too early, or I'm not making any money yet, or lawyers are expensive, or it's just not urgent. They feel like good reasons, but in practice, they're the exact reasons that creators end up losing control of their brands. So here are some myths that I just want to bust for you real quickly here, with thanks and credit to the Mythbusters folks. First off, I have an LLC, so I'm good. Nope. The name of an LLC can be replicated in other places, other states. They won't even look to see if there's something similar on file elsewhere. And even then, only in their state will they look for exact matches, and only in that particular state. Another myth, you can't register till you're making money. Well, no, that's not true. You can file even before you start using the brand. You can file on the basis of an intent to use. If you have a genuine bona fide intention, you can register, and then it'll be finalized after you start using it, but you can sort of hold your spot and reserve the name. All right. Maybe you think common law rights are enough. Well, no, they help, sure, but a trademark registration gives you stronger, faster, national level protection, and that's important. Or maybe you think you can wait until you're famous, right? But that is when it's too late to put a stop to the copycats without a big fight. And if you're famous, maybe you have a deeper pocket and they prolong the fight just to drag more out of you. So now, another myth is that it's very, very expensive. But I'll tell you, it does have a cost. There's an investment involved, but the cost of inaction can be so much higher. The waiting around, the having to fight over a registration of somebody else, all of that, or just dealing with the infringement and maybe having to rebrand, all of that costs a lot more. So here is a quick 5-step brand protection playbook for you. Step 1, choose your brand wisely. You're looking for distinctiveness, right? Distinctiveness is on this spectrum, right? At the one end, we have the most distinctive things, coined phrases, words that have no real meaning in the language other than the brand they're attached to. For example, Xerox, right? Then we come a little further away from that most distinctive, and we're still in the distinctiveness space with fanciful marks, things that have a meaning in language, but they don't mean anything in relation to the goods being sold. Think about Apple Computer, right? What does Apple have to do with computer technology? Or Apple Records, Apple Core Records, right? The Beatles record company, same issue. And those two companies did have to duke it out in the 80s. And they ended up coming to a settlement that made room for both. So that's the fanciful marks. Then we have suggestive marks, marks that, they have meaning. It's sort of related to what we're doing. It's a suggestion. It's not right on the nose descriptive of what we're dealing with. And so those are also still mostly protectable. Then we get into the descriptive area. And this is the descriptive end of the spectrum that goes from descriptiveness all the way down to generic. These things are not likely to be entitled to registration. If the brand is descriptive, we don't want to take those words out of the English language, right? If it is misdescriptive, then that's deceptive, and we aren't going to register that. If it's geographically descriptive, again, descriptive, right? So we don't want to protect that. And then there's the most generic things like, the word basket. We're not, unless it's fanciful and connected to something like space rockets. Basket is not going to be something that we can register for a basket company, for example. All right. Once you have decided on a descriptive brand to protect, then you need to run a search and make sure that there are no confusingly similar brands out in the marketplace. Sure, start with Google, start with Amazon. If you're doing a podcast, look in the podcast directories. If you're doing videos, look on YouTube. Search everywhere that sort of makes sense to see, not just identical, exact match names, but also anything that might be similar enough that people might get confused. Then, once you've determined that there's nothing out there too troublesome, it makes sense to search the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. That's uspto.gov. You can go to the buttons that talk about searches, and you can search for, again, type in your name, and it will give you sort of fuzzy logic matches. And you want to see, is there anything that's in the same class of goods and services that you're registering? I'll get to that a little more in a minute. And that is going to possibly cause some confusion as to both of them coming from the same place or something like that. That's what we call a knockout search. Assuming that comes up clean, then what I recommend is, when there's any doubt at all, is that we run a more comprehensive trademark availability search. I use a third-party service for that. Costs about $500 to run that search to really find out everything in the territory that we designate. The $500 is usually for a US and Canada kind of a search, but we can expand that as needed. And they will give us everything: web browser, web page names, and social media handles, and all that. Really gives us a lot of information to make sure that we're going to get the trademark register to go through. All right. Once we've cleared that hurdle and we know that it's likely to go through, then we prepare the U.S. trademark application. That means filing not just the application itself, which is it's not a tremendously long form application document, but it is a little tricky in some of the ways you have to answer. You have to sort of understand how trademark law works when you complete the description of your goods and services and identify the ownership structures and things like that. Not insurmountable. It can be done yourself, but most of the time people like to hire lawyers to help with this because we get it done quickly and easily. Anyway, you file that application along with specimens showing actual use of the goods, of the mark, in connection with the goods and services in commerce. And of course, there's a filing fee. The filing fee for trademark registration is $350 per application, per mark, I should say, and per class of goods or services. So if you are doing t-shirts and coffee mugs, it's likely those are going to fall into two different classes of goods. So you're looking at two registrations. If you're doing a podcast, you might end up in class 41, which is entertainment services and educational services. That's where a YouTube channel name would also wind up. or social media handle would wind up. But also with audio, with any podcast that has a downloadable component, it would also land in another class, class 9, which deals with electronic apparatus and recordings. So we have to think about how many classes of goods and services are we doing, and try to protect them across all of those. Once we have done that and filed the specimen, the filing fee, and the application itself, we wait, typically 3, 4, 5, 6 months until the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office examining attorney is assigned and reviews the application. Oftentimes they come back with requests for clarification, some what we call office actions. It might be a request for clarification or for a disclaimer to be used to clarify things there. Sometimes it's what we call a preliminary refusal that gives us an opportunity to resolve any problems with the application. We have usually 3 months to respond to that. And then once those responses have been dealt with, or if necessary, or the examiner finds the mark suitable for registration, then they authorize for it to be published. And that publication opens a 30-day window for opposition. That is, anybody out in the general public has an opportunity to object to the registration if they feel it's going to cause them some kind of harm or loss. But assuming that 30 days goes by and there isn't an opposition, then the trademark will eventually find its way to registration. Usually takes a few more weeks after that before the registration actually issues, and you have a trademark. Then you have some maintenance obligations. In the 6th year, you're required to file a statement showing that you're still using the mark, more specimens, and a small filing fee. And then in the 10th year, another renewal fee and filing. And then every 10 years after that, you have to file that renewal. And then you're registered. That protection will last as long as you continue using the mark and file those renewals. Now, one thing about owning a trademark is the obligation, the duty to police your trademarks. That is to become aware, search out, watch for changes in the registration, not in changes, others entering the marketplace and infringing or potentially infringing your marks, and to do something about it. Sometimes that doing something as simple as just reaching out to them and letting them know, I have a trademark, you're going to not want to do that. Sometimes it's a more formal cease and desist letter, usually written by your lawyer. And sometimes it involves actually having to sue to stop the wrongful use of a registered brand. So there's your things. Now, trademark rights, as I said, they do come from use, but being the registrant gets you some powerful legal presumptions. And what that means is that if someone beats you to it, even if you were the first user, you're going to be stuck in that costly legal battle, either opposing the existing trademark, which is like a lawsuit in a way. You have to prove your rights and try to cancel their rights, their registration. And trust me, that is just not where you want to be when you're growing, right? I'll tell you one sort of horror story along these lines. A client of mine came to me. He'd been podcasting for a number of years. I think it was like 12 or 13 years. And he came to me and said, let's register my trademark. I said, great. And in the course of talking, he let me know that he was aware that there was another outfit starting up a podcast with a similar, the key buzzword in the title of my client's show also was in their title of their show. And it looked like there could indeed be some confusion. Well, unfortunately, that other outfit had already filed their trademark application on the basis of intent to use, saying, hey, world, we're going to start using this brand. And the trademark office had provisionally approved that registration. It had gone through the whole process, and the opportunity for the opposition had already passed. So we were going to have to wait until the registration went through and then basically sue to cancel the registration. Well, because they had filed on a basis of intent to use, we had to wait. They were not ready to launch yet. So they had this 6-month window of time to file proof, the specimens, proving that they were using the mark. And if they didn't do that in that amount of time, they had another opportunity to renew and extend that 6-month period. In total, they extended that 4 or 5 times out to a total of 3.5 years. So from the date we applied, our trademark registration had been suspended because theirs was already in the pipeline. And even though theirs was not already in use, ours was, we had to wait until they either proved that they were in use or withdrew their application, or what happened in our case was they used up their opportunities to extend and their application was deemed abandoned. And then ours went through. But during that 3.5 years, my client was paying me to monitor and stay on top of things and file responses and try to write to them and deal with them directly to try to get them to withdraw their application, none of which worked. And so it came at a large cost that would have been spared if my client had moved for his registration sooner in the game. So now, look, I know that waiting does feel cheaper, but it really isn't. After all, one takedown notice, forced rebrand, or dispute, or an opposition or cancellation, you will pay far more than the cost of doing things right from the start. So that's what I recommend. Soon as you're up and running with your business, maybe even sooner, file that trademark application. Now, I offer flat rate. I offer flat rate transparent packages that will help you get protected without breaking the bank. If you would like my help, here's what you want to do next. Hop on a call with me and we'll talk about what you're building and what you need to do to keep it safe. This is an entirely free consultation. No pressure, just a little more clarity. And that's it. That's the whole presentation today. I want to say thank you for joining me on the call. It says a lot about how committed you are to your business and brand. And I hope you'll get behind that commitment and take action, because the best time to protect your brand was yesterday. And the next best time is right now. Tomorrow's a little too late sometimes. So jump on this, take action to protect your brand and your intellectual property with trademark registration. And that's it. Thanks for watching. I'm Gordon Firemark. Reach out to firemark.com/tmconsult or scan the QR code on the screen, or click the link in the comments section here and visit the scheduler and book your time. It's a free consultation. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. See you soon.